Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order, and the first order of business is an executive session.
I'll move to find that premature public knowledge regarding a labor relations agreement with employees could clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage, and further move we enter executive session to discuss a labor relations agreement with employees under Title I, Sections 313A1B, and invite Fire Chief Aaron Collette and Town Manager Eric Wells to join.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. We are in executive session. Hopefully we'll be back in due time. So we are back from executive session. No substantive decisions were
She
made.
signed it.
And
Oh,
so
did
we
it?
can continue on with. Well, I'm not going to repeat all of them. No substantive decisions were made in the executive session, and the next item on the agenda is the minutes from June 17th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve subject to modification.
Is there a second?
Second.
Going through them, page 1. Page 2. Page 3.
I think under final thoughts, I asked that we have a future discussion about the board volunteered application.
Okay. So with that modification, are there any other modifications? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No nays, the ayes have it. Next is public comment. This is a moment where people here or on participating remotely can say just whatever they want. We do ask you to keep your comments to within 2 or 3 minutes, but it can be anything on the agenda, but it doesn't have to be. Is there anybody who wishes to make a public comment? Yeah.
I can reserve this for the cell phone time. Doesn't matter.
It's up to you.
Okay. I'll just say that living in the village for 18 years or thereabouts. I mean, this happened today where I'm in the middle of a call. Calls these days don't happen unless they're, I think, important. So I'm on a call, and then 2 minutes into the call, it drops, or, my Wi-Fi call drops. And, I conduct business from my house. It's highly unprofessional, I think, to have a drop call when you're talking about money or a contract or something of that nature. So I have a landline. I think that's like kind of a needed expense these days. But I have one for sort of really important calls. But my publicized number is the cell number. And I just think it's 2025. I really am encouraged that we have this plan for I think it's police cupola. Is that what it is? And so I'm very much in support of a solution for the village to have cell coverage for not just my story, of course the school's right there, a variety of reasons, but nobody in the village I've spoken to, and again, lived here 18 years, has ever said to me, geez, I really like there's no cell coverage in the village. That's not something I've ever heard. So I like that, we're getting to this point, I think it's fine. We sort of, coming up on my 3 minutes, I'll stop soon, but it's okay. We Old Brick Church, yay, nay, didn't work out. I just sort of glanced over this study. It seems good to me. So, but I'm not the one working here. Of course, if it was like a concern for health, concern for somebody working here every day, of course I would think, that would take priority. But it doesn't seem like that's a concern based on the study. So, I think this is promising. So I hope it goes forward.
Great. And I'm sorry, can you identify yourself? I'm sorry for the folks here.
What's that?
Can you officially say your name?
Oh, yeah, Andy Dubeck, Maple Road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Is there anybody online?
No.
Okay.
Excuse me, Ted, is this specific to the cell service?
No. It's just,
But is this the only time to comment on the cell service?
no, it's not.
Okay.
Okay, so next, interviews and appointments. Eric, we have one
Yeah, Courtney interviewing for the housing.
contestant.
Yep.
Come on, Courtney, come on down. Hi. So, wondering if you could just identify yourself and give a brief spiel as a Housing Commission committee.
My name is Courtney Kutcher-Fellow, although it will be Courtney Jackson very soon, as I just got married on May 9th, and I have an appointment with the Vermont DMV on July 10th. So coming right up, it will be Jackson very soon. I am a registered nurse. I have been a nurse since 2017. I am a current graduate student. I am studying to become a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And I'm very, and I've lived in Williston since I bought right up the street from here in 2019. And I would like to join the housing committee for a number of reasons. And I don't know if you guys are gonna ask questions about that, or would you like me to kind of elaborate more on that?
Why don't you give a little blurb and we'll ask questions thereafter.
So I would really like to join the housing committee because, first and foremost, I love Williston, I love Vermont, and I think a lot of the issues that Vermont is facing has to do with the housing crisis, and it has to do with exploding rent prices, exploding housing prices, and I think it's very important to create more housing, to create more affordable housing. And I think Williston is in a unique situation, opportunity to do that because there's so much development in Williston. And I think addressing these housing issues will first and foremost make Vermont more affordable, more accessible for people to live here, but it will help other issues like the healthcare issues that we're facing. UVM Medical Center, for example, is facing a nursing crisis, healthcare provider crisis, and it's impacted by our cumulative inability really to recruit and retain and recruit nurses, retain and recruit doctors, due to low housing availability and unaffordable housing. So that's really my motivation, to join the housing committee. I also have been a landlord for a number of years. I'm a property manager. I manage my parents' properties in Maine, and so I have a little of experience in that area.
Great, thanks. So I have a question before I ask it though. Psychiatric nurse practitioner?
Yep.
That is desperately needed, so thank you for that.
Of course.
As well as being here tonight. So this is a question that our former select board member Jeff Fears used to ask, and it's a bad question, so now I get to ask it. It's a question about conflict of interest. If there was a conflict of interest with you on this committee, two questions. How would you recognize it, and what would you do about it?
So I think if there was any conflict of interest, I have to deal as a nurse, I can't take care of my friends or my family members. It's something, if I identified a conflict of interest, it was something I would obviously address right away with the board and recuse myself and not be involved in any form of that decision making. But I don't foresee there being any conflict of interest because my motivation really is just to help create more housing, make Vermont, make Williston more affordable and create more housing for people because, I really would like to stay in Vermont. I want to live in Williston. I love Williston. My house is a little small. Like I said, I just got married. I really want to have children. Once I'm closer to finishing school, I want to buy, a house. And I'm sure a lot of people are in the situation that I'm in, and we're just limited in affordability and availability. And I think it's a goal of a lot of people, and I would like to just help with that.
Great. Other questions from the board? universally rejected right out of the gate.
I thank you for taking interest and wanting to be part of the town and the community here. Thank you.
Of course. I'm thinking about potentially a meeting with Senator Kesha Hinsdale in a couple weeks, and I'm thinking about potentially running for the Vermont legislature next year. And if I was to, go forward with that, I think housing is going to be a really big priority, and it's something the Vermont legislature has already been working on, and I think they've done a really good job with some of the things they've done to help promote housing in the area.
Okay, great.
This is not a question, but I certainly encourage you. I'm sure you've heard the chatter around town, but we are in the middle of, redoing our town plan. And so I would strongly encourage you, housing is a massive focus of our new town plan. And so to take a look at that, we'll be having some public forums about it. So, to get involved in that process too, possibly, so.
I was sent some information about a few months ago, about some of the things the plans are doing, and I read about it and some of the things that are being proposed about it, but I'll reread about it since it was a little while ago.
A lot of updates since then to the town plan.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We have only one candidate, so perhaps we can move immediately to a consideration. Is there a motion?
Will you do me a favor and just pronounce your last name?
So right now, it's Cutcherfellow.
Cutcherfellow?
Yep, Cutcherfellow. It will be Jackson.
Okay.
I mean,
I think we have to appoint you as Cutcher.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure names are
Yeah,
important,
just
that we
didn't want to
pronounce
say
it
it wrong.
correctly.
as I'm going through the name change process, everyone is different. So I just changed my name with Social Security on June 23rd. Some people just want my marriage certificate, but other people want my driver's license. So I don't know I'm assuming my driver's license.
Well, if we find out that we appointed you in the wrong name, we'll do it over.
That's July 10th.
You promise not to wait for supper.
I'll move to appoint Courtney Cutcherfellow to the Housing Committee for a 3-year term through June 30th, 2028.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. The ayes have it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm assuming I'll be sent some information, some more information about registering and stuff like that. I understand there's a meeting every month to attend. The only thing I do have to say is it possible to do some virtual meetings, because I'm getting surgery on this ankle in 2 months in August, and I'm not allowed to walk for 8 weeks. Yeah.
Well, I just be able to. I think they offer them remotely. So Melinda Scott in the planning office staffs the committee, so she'll be in touch shortly to
Okay,
go over the
sounds
details
good.
and get you up and running.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Courtney.
Well,
Thank you.
Courtney.
So next on the agenda, the Verizon cell phone repeater issue.
So I can give a brief introduction as our
Yeah.
guests here get set up. So we'll have folks back that you've met with before, representing Verizon, King Engineering on this. We're going to continue discussion about potentially locating a cell phone antenna on town-owned property in the village to address signal deficiencies. Previously considered was the old brick church cupola. The roof of the police station has also emerged as a second alternative to consider. In your packet this evening is a proposed site plan, along with a radio frequency report conducted by a third party to ensure the site would meet federal safety standards. This discussion is an opportunity for the select board to discuss the proposal with our guests here this evening. The select board could also discuss the old brick church site proposal, should it wish to continue the dialogue on that site. The substantive decision for the select board to make at a future meeting, staff seeks direction how we'd like to proceed with either the police station, the old brick church, or neither, not proceed with either. If the board does wish to proceed further with this project, next step would be to direct the town manager to negotiate a lease agreement for the antenna with Verizon Wireless. I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Well, I think that very succinctly stated what I was going to request. As Eric mentioned, we were here before presenting a proposal for leasing in the old brick church. We met with the community. While there was considerable support for it, there were also quite some number of concerns, and it was decided that it would be best to fully vet any alternative before proceeding any further, contemplating that. And in the process of that, we identified the police department as a very good possible host site for the communications facility. And we've done the initial rounds of due diligence, which includes a lease exhibit, a site visit, and third-party contracted emissions report, which you have. And what we're here to do is, as was mentioned, seek approval to work with the town, negotiating in good faith towards a lease for that site, to either bring it to fruition or see if it can't come to fruition. So anyways, we'd like to be able to request to start that process if the select board votes in favor.
And I'm Louis Hodgetts with Du Bois and King. I'm here to support and answer any questions that you have regarding the site design, layout, or anything related to that.
So I think one of the questions I had is if this does go above the police department, could you just give I know it's in the report, but could you just give a quick verbal report on whether that's dangerous, what it implies? Is it going to be as effective as it would be if it were in the church, that kind of thing?
As far as the site, I mean, the church and the police department's proximity are quite close. So the service from either one would be quite similar. And we're hoping that being a newer building and the opportunity to work with stealthing the antennas, that it would be a better fit for most folks as far as aesthetics. I know that there are considerable concerns, even though the steeple in the church is, I believe it was 2007 that it was struck by lightning and burnt, and it's newer, not necessarily historic, but nonetheless there's considerable sentiment towards the historic nature of it. So I think given that, this fit could be a very nice one. And then as far as the site itself, it'll operate within FCC guidelines, and we have provided reports showing what the emissions would be predicted from the site and showing compliance with those standards.
I see on the design, the cupola, I remember on the brick church, there was some discussion about a shed or another piece of extension of it's on the back of the police station. Is that what I see on the drawing?
Yes, so ground space around the police station was fairly limited, and interior space was very limited. So meeting with Lieutenant Shepard, we found a spot out back within the current fence enclosure for the emergency generator. We feel we can fit the proposed equipment within that location, within that fenced area. We're proposing some outdoor equipment cabinets on a platform that will be fully enclosed with that within that fenced area. At the Red Brick Church, we had to, understanding the historic significance of that church and the site itself, we wanted to be a little bit more careful in our screening of that, which is why we had proposed the addition onto the back end to more effectively screen that equipment.
You're not worried about the beautiful back end of our police station?
I mean, it's right next to a giant generator, so it's very similar equipment makeup.
So I'm glad to see this study, just kind of some concrete data. But wondering if we've talked to the folks, Lieutenant, or I mean, maybe you're the person to answer this, because you're the one who works in that building every day. How does the folks that are there on a daily basis, how are they feeling about this possibility?
Actually, Lieutenant, could you come up to a microphone? Sorry.
And while he's coming up, Greta, I shared a copy of that report with every member of town staff that works in the police station, town hall, and the town hall annex to have a copy.
Awesome.
So my office is actually directly below the proposed tower site, and I'm not concerned, and the staff is actually more excited to have the cell phone service than not. I have not heard any concerns from anyone at all to the negative. In fact, it's all been positive. It is actually a concern for us to not have service in the village for several reasons, to include the use of our MDTs, cell phones to communicate, et cetera. So for us, it's been nothing but a positive.
How about this building, Eric? Any concerns from staff here?
No, I sent the report out last week, and I didn't hear any concerns from staff. And with the model, for the, make sure you get the context right here, there's a limit of 100% allowed by the FCC guidance, and the analysis would be for everyone working in these buildings, that limit is modeled to be less than 1% of the allowable limit, if I got that right, Andrew. We felt like that was a good report, and really helpful to have that context from the consultant on that.
If I was looking at the pictures right, it's actually a benefit to be in the annex because you get nothing over there.
I'd like to thank Verizon for understanding our concerns about this historic structure next door, the 1832 brick church, and, maintaining its aesthetics and everything, its historical value. I just applaud you for that. And thank the lieutenant for not having a problem with it being outside his door. Offices.
I'm very appreciative that we've gotten to this point where there is an alternative proposal. I for a very long time have been highly concerned about, as Lieutenant Shepard noted, the lack of cell phone service, not only within the village, but we have our largest school within our town that does not have sufficient cell phone coverage, and our largest park in town that does not have sufficient cell phone coverage. And so I'm really glad you've stuck with us and are coming up with some alternative solutions here.
So, speaking, Greg, did you want to jump in now or wait? Or?
That's great.
Okay.
Go up to the mic.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm Greg Marino, Williston resident since 2007, also the lead principal at the Williston Schools. So I'm just here to state my strong support for any proposal to increase the cell coverage in the village area. It's been very concerning, the safety committee, not to have the cell coverage. We've had multiple instances of situations outside. One personal, I was on the phone, couldn't maintain a 911 call with an injured student, injured at recess. We had the emergency evacuation just months ago due to a discharged fire extinguisher. We had a full evacuation of the building. I couldn't maintain a call with my superintendent, just right in front of the building. And I couldn't be close enough to the building in that moment to get the Wi-Fi. So we have 800 souls there across the street, and it is a serious issue not to be able to get a reliable call. I'm concerned that it may only impact Verizon. People, have Verizon as a carrier, but that's a great step in the right direction. So I just want to express my strong support for this proposal.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
So, actually, is there anybody else? You already made your comment. Is there any other contribution from the? Yeah, go ahead.
And just briefly listening to this issue, I think it makes a lot of sense to have cell phone coverage in this area, especially with the school being across the street and some of the issues that the principal just brought up. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Further questions from the board?
What do we need from us tonight?
Well, the board has a substantive decision policy, so it's called the two-meeting rule. Things if you decide you want to, wait before considering any direction, to have a meeting gap if there's additional community input and things of that nature. See, Jason, you're from the Observer tonight, so I imagine it will
It's
be in the
gonna
paper.
be the Observer.
The Jeff Ferris rule.
Jeff Fear's rule, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a select board policy if you want to follow that, or
Yeah,
it's your discretion.
It's not binding.
It's not binding, it's up to
No.
you.
But,
No, I would like to hear. I mean, I was turned around by the community thinking around the brick church, so I would be happy to give the community an opportunity to let us know what they think.
Yeah, I agree.
I shared with folks who had submitted comments last time the information about the meeting, and I sent a letter to everyone who, like a quarter mile, who live around this area last week to let them know this was being discussed. So I hadn't heard from many folks. I have a couple folks that received that email here this evening, and yeah, some more time. Might get some other comments for the board to consider too.
okay. I'm surmising that the community response we had last time was fundamentally about the old brick church, not so much the science, although we did have some people who were concerned about the science, for better or worse, but perhaps.
They would
we
have
should-
access they would have access to the report if they wanted it now, because it's in our.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Materials,
It's
yeah.
all public. and-
but I think, would it make sense to say we're gonna make a decision in the next meeting?
It's okay
Yeah,
with me.
I don't think we need
Board's
to put it on for a long time.
I think,
Um,
2 weeks is,
yeah.
and, because we only have one meeting in August, so anyway, yeah.
So, all right.
Well, we would say
Okay.
that if we had significant input that we needed to talk about, we could table
Well,
it.
then we
Right,
can
of course.
Yeah, right.
take it and then have another meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like-
And was there any questions about the report itself for the emissions? I think someone might be on from that company too, I can't
Oh,
remember.
C squared, yeah, they've been provided, and hopefully somebody is, if there's further questions. In the alternative, if there are questions that come up, those could probably be put together via email
Sure.
and reached out, or if there's a greater need for them to attend at the next meeting in 2 weeks, then we can reach out to them and check their availability as well. So we can find a way to make sure questions get answered.
All right, okay, so we'll take this up again, but I think it's pretty clear we're probably gonna go, but so, one more meeting.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very
Thanks, guys.
much.
Thank you for the public's input.
So next on the agenda, fiscal year 2026 tax rate, and Shirley, good evening.
I'm thinking Eric's going to do this little introduction over there first.
Okay. So it's first year of the new fiscal year. Happy New Year, everyone. Fiscal year 2026 is underway. So as part of your official board business, you need to set the fiscal year 2026 tax rate. We need to send out tax bills by July 15th because they are due 30 days after that. We must mail them out by July 15th. Shirley's prepared for you a calculation for the fiscal year 2026 tax rate with the finalized municipal grand list that was wrapped up last week by the assessor in the lister's office. The voters approved the amount of money to raise by taxes at town meeting, so we used the grand list and the amount of money to raise to come up with the tax rate. It's also reflected as the approved percentage on the grand list as a separate levy for the Environmental Reserve Fund. I will not take all of Shirley's presentation,
Well,
hopefully.
that's okay. Well, first, I have to say that Eric and I were looking back at the grand list value that we used for the budget. It was about $2,500 less than the number you're seeing here, so some pretty darn good estimating, don't you think? Thanks to Bill, that is. Eric, and I didn't bring my budget materials, but I can't remember what the municipal tax rate, well, I forgot to look. But it's definitely lower than the number we, approved in March for the town meeting. It's a tad bit lower. So the $8,440,020 is the amount of tax revenue approved by the voters, and we just take that, divide it by the grand list to get the tax rate assessment. And then, as Eric said, the separate environmental reserve fund calculation, 0.5% of the grand list, and that's $108,330. I don't know that you have to make a, to approve that, because it was approved by the voters, that rate already, that calculation. It's just the numbers, I think we had like 110,000 and the warning in the articles, and it came out to be 108,330.
Yeah, and I believe we worded the article that what it was estimated to be per our attorney's advice. So once we
Right.
final grand list, we can calculate it.
I know this is right because the number's in the right number, but why do I have a half a cent on the tax rate in my head instead of, how's that translate into a 0.5%? I'm just missing, I just need to connect the dots.
Half those,
Wasn't it a half a
I didn't
cent?
follow you, Jim.
I thought it was a half a cent on the tax rate.
Yeah, I think Shirley, just how you've put it as a percentage, but it's really 5 cents on
Right.
the rate.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes, the calculation comes out the same.
I just want to make sure I was misremembering.
Yeah.
I'll just add for context, as we've looked at the tax for a median homeowner in town, this would reflect about a $100 increase over FY25, which is essentially what we communicated for our estimate at town meeting. So that median assessed home in FY25 had a tax of, I didn't put that tax, but it would be just under $1,170 with that increase for FY26 for the median homeowner with that 39 or 38 and change tax rate, set tax rate.
The only change is the grand list though, right?
Right.
Final grand list.
Right. The only change is the grand list. We estimate this at
Right.
town meeting to think how much it's going to go up, but the voters approve how much to raise by taxes, so the grand list is a reflection of what the rate will be to raise that amount of money. The other thing I shared with the board today, we got our education rates the state set out, and the homestead education rate in Williston's going to drop about 9 cents. So overall, it's I won't speculate on the math too much, but there'll be an increase, a decrease in taxes for overall for the community with that factored in.
You have to share with those with me. I didn't get them there. I looked last week when I was doing this, but I didn't see them published yet.
Didn't have a chance to talk to you about it today.
Yeah.
Good work by the school district who took some harsh cuts and the legislature for throwing in some extra money.
Yeah.
You would just need to consider a motion to set the tax rate.
I move to set the fiscal year 2026 municipal tax rate at $38.96 per $100 of assessed property value.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion on the motion?
Did I say it right? Is
I would just read it as cents.
38.96 cents. It's
Yeah.
38.96 cents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dollars. I was thinking how to put it in motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So calling the vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. The motion carries. The tax rate is set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've
Thank
got to
you.
physically sign that, but while that's being passed around, next is the fiscal year 2026 pay bands.
Yep, just another kind of annual item. Our pay bands, appendix N of the personnel policy, we essentially increase the ceiling of those by our inflation rate annually. The board has to set those pay band rates, so suggested is a 3.3% increase of the pay band ceilings for FY26, and there's a motion suggested.
Questions for Eric? Administrative type thing? All those, if there are no more questions,
Did you get a motion?
No, I'd need a motion
Because
before
I'm
we
not
call the vote.
redoing it. Oh, let's go numbers in this one. I can do this.
Yeah.
I move to amend Appendix N of the town personnel policy as presented.
Is there a second?
A second?
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. The motion carries. So that
Shirley,
actually-
you want to stay? Finance report.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You can give us the highlights.
There aren't many changes, so I'll just review things that changed from March.
So we'll start off with some good news, and Chief is sitting right there behind us. So looking at, so in March, I had estimated that the ambulance revenue would be about $790,000. The budget is $630. Looking at the numbers again, because I sort of can look through the end of the year now, since we're there. I'm thinking the ambulance revenue might be closer to 825,000 for this fiscal year. Because we were in June, but I get to take the July and August payments that relate to June billings back in as revenue. So that will definitely put us higher than the 790. Let's see. There, like I said, there really isn't too much that has changed. Sewer allocation, I'll just say the one change that was a little bit more significant from last March, from this March, 2005 allocation sold another 17,000 to Ethan Allen Homes during April, so that is the increase when you look at the allocation from March to now. And that really is it. Those are the two bigger things that changed from March year to date.
Both good news?
To April year to date. Yeah, and good news.
Questions for Shirley?
When it comes to budget, it's always a highlight for Jean.
Yeah.
So that would bring us to manager's report.
Yeah, so I'll just highlight a few things this evening. I'll recognize our new police officer. Officer Jeffrey Turner was sworn in on June 16th. He brings several years of law enforcement experience to the department. We're excited to have him join our team. Independence Day celebration is coming up with events from July 3rd to July 5th. Just want to publicly thank everyone who makes that possible. It's the largest event we put on every year in town, and we have a number of our public safety staff supporting that. Our recreation and park staff, camp staff, volunteers, Rotary Club. So it takes a village literally to put on the Independence Day celebration. So thank everyone for their work, and looking forward to that coming up at the end of the week. Also want to recognize our town assessor, Bill Hinman, who's wrapping up 25 years of service to the town. He's going to be moving to a part-time, primarily remote role for the next year as he phases out into retirement, and we're thankful to keep Bill's expertise in helping us for one more year with especially commercial property and finalizing the grand list next June. So we're thankful to Bill for his careful stewardship of the grand list for an immense period in Williston's history for a quarter century, and he was vital to those nuts and bolts calculations that have to occur to make a town function day to day. So big thanks to Bill. The Town Hall parking lot project will be getting started this coming Monday, July 7th. Our contract is 45 days for it to be completed. They have up to that amount, so it may be done sooner.
I celebrated by stepping right into a puddle as I jumped out of my car.
No. Hopefully those will be gone soon. For just logistics, the guard next door has been a great neighbor, and they're going to be parking in their back area. So town staff and visitors to the municipal campus can park over there while the parking lot's under construction. So we'll have good signage and reminding staff from week to week. We'll keep the public updated of where to park. So we should have that project hopefully wrapped up by mid-August or so, and we'll have lights and fixed drainage moving forward. So
Police department, figure out how they're going to deal with not being able to get to their building?
There'll be there's contingencies built in,
Okay.
especially working closely with PD. Just they'll be able to respond to calls as they usually do. The board had asked for an update on the Allenbrook Bridge project last meeting. I connected with David, our conservation planner. We have an engineering team for the project. They've submitted a design to the state for input on permitting. Our builder's committed to the project, is looking to get it completed this year to repair that crossing. We'll have an updated cost estimate once the design is finalized, but permitting is going to require 2 state regulators with wetlands and stream alterations and the Army Corps of Engineers. The upgraded posts for the bridge repair need to be installed during the vegetation growing season, along with any grading or stream armoring they're looking at as well. This is going to require maneuvering mechanical equipment down to that stream site at the Allenbrook. Once that is complete, the bridge can be resurfaced at any time after the posts are dropped in. So that could be completed by early fall. The second phase, potentially early winter. Keep the board updated once we certainly have the engineering done. If the estimate changes, we'll bring that back to you if we need to consider additional allocations. But
I'll probably ask David. I'm just really curious as to why it needs to be done during the growing season. But sounds like
I-
a question for our planner.
Yeah, I can check. I imagine it's with a permitting regulation.
I know,
think-
but like, why would you do it while everything's growing? It seems backwards, but that's okay. I'll
Yeah,
ask
I
you
can
next time I
check.
see you. You don't really need to get back to me on that.
Okay.
Just a curiosity.
And just to kind of have a standing update on Community Justice Center service transition, we had a planning meeting last week. We're going to be meeting monthly, the steering committee I'm a part of, making this kind of a broader transition team over the next couple of months and working to engage our volunteers as part of that process. So that will pick up steam here this summer and this fall. And that's all I have for manager's report.
Great. Other business?
2 catering permits. In chronological order, a July 18th permit at that Isham Family Barn. It's for a welcome event of 40 people. And let's see, yeah, it looks like a trails organization. And then a 802 cocktails on September 6th. I believe this is a 140-person wedding reception.
Where's that one also?
At Isham Family Barn.
Questions for Eric? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. One abstention. Any other business?
No, I'll just mention your next meeting will have some big items on it. The public hearing, #1 for the town plan, and then an extensive update on the library project.
Yep. Okay.
Possible stormwater project visit the following month.
Yeah, potentially in August, I'm thinking, to plan out that visit.
So that brings us to final thoughts on items from this meeting. Are there any final thoughts? Hearing none, we'll say that we are adjourned.